What's your favorite part of D&D? Role-playing? Combat with terrible enemies like dragons and demons? Watching those experience points creep up? Or do you like treasure? The idea of gold and gems and other loot found in a hoard at the end of an adventure. But I bet more than anything, it's the magic items that fascinate you the most. And in the new 2024 DMG, there are some new ones, and by new, I'm not talking about magic items from 5th edition books released after the old DMG, like the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Those aren't new. We want actual new items. So here are my top 5 favorite new magic items in the 2024 edition of the Dungeons Master's Guide. Number 5, Enspelled Armor. There are 2 other versions of this item, the Enspelled Staff and the Enspelled Weapon, but this is the one I find the most interesting. This can be any light, medium, or heavy armor and requires attunement. When the armor was created, it had a specific spell enchanted into it. This spell must come from the Abjuration or Illusion schools of magic, which makes this item the most restrictive of the 3. But most characters want to wear armor if they can, and don't want to be hindered by what's in their hands. The spell level of the spell determines the rarity, save DC, and attack bonus of the spell, with cantrips and first level spells being uncommon, 2nd and 3rd are rare, 4th and 5th are very rare, and 6th, 7th, and 8th being legendary. No 9th level spells. I probably would have those as artifacts, but that's just me. You have 6 charges to cast using the action the spell would normally take. These charges regenerate at dawn with 1d6 returning. I think the shield spell is the one that jumps out at me the most. Who doesn't want 6 shield spells in a day? Short of the monk and most sorcerers and wizards, everyone wants to wear some sort of armor and couldn't benefit from getting a +5 to their AC with a reaction. This is also great because it's only a first level spell, doesn't care about his save DC or attack bonuses, is uncommonly rare, which makes it very accessible. But there are other good low level options. Invisibility or mirror image would be great top picks for 2nd level spells. I imagine most characters would want those, as well as especially rogues. This can offer a lot of creativity for the DM and for any aspiring magic item crafter to really explore different themes of armor types combined with particular spell choices. Play armor with the shield spell for real tanky characters, leather armor with greater invisibility for the ultimate assassin, or breastplate with armor of Agathis for a battle priest. So many options. Number 4, Baba Yaga's Dancing Broom. Baba Yaga certainly has made a lot of contributions to the magic items of D&D lately. This one is no different, although it might be a bit more accessible than the others. This uncommon magic item requires attunement. With a magic action, you can activate the broom to become an animated broom. As long as the broom is within 30 feet, you can mentally command the item with no additional action to take general actions, specific actions, and move. Mostly I see this as being used to attack or guard an area. You can use a bonus action to revert the broom back into its non-magical state and recover all of its hit points. This is important because if the broom falls to 0 hit points while active, it's destroyed forever. Which does make this a bit of a risk to use, so you'd have to employ some strategy of when to use the item. At higher levels, I think I'd use it more to guard flanks or even to guard the camp, but it's a resource freed up from other things. So let's talk about the animated broom itself. Unfortunately, we don't have the updated stats for this thing just yet. I would assume they will be published in the upcoming Monsters Manual. The original animated broom is from Candlekeep's Mysteries. I'm going to assume they haven't changed much, so we'll just go off that. AC 15, not bad. 17 hit points, not great. And can fly and hover, useful. A bunch of immunities, the flyby feature, which means it can fly to an enemy, attack, and then fly away without provoking attacks of opportunity. This will be the best way to attack without risking the item itself. It also gets 2 attacks with a +5 to hit and an average of about 5 damage apiece. Nothing amazing, but consistent and will chip away at a bad guy. It's definitely an item to keep around. Number 3, Shield of the Cavalier. There aren't too many magic shields in D&D, and none are as interesting as this one. A very rare item that requires attunement. It's a +2 shield, so it gives +4 to our AC, which is a big boost. But in addition to a big boost AC, we get 2 other features. Forceful Push lets us replace one of our attacks during an attack action with a Shield Bash. Use your proficiency bonus plus strength bonus for attack, and the damage is 2d6 plus 2 plus your strength modifier and is force damage, which is handy. Also, if you hit, you push the creature 10 feet away, and if it's your size or smaller, it falls prone. No saving throw for any of this. We also get Protective Shield as a reaction when making a saving throw for an area attack or an attack that targets us or someone within 5 feet of us. A 5-foot immovable emanation appears around you. Anything not fully within the emanation is pushed out. Everything within the emanation is protected from whatever triggered the reaction. Nothing can pass into or out of the emanation while it lasts, and it lasts as long as you concentrate on it like a spell, for up to 1 minute. You can only do this once per day. To be clear, once the emanation is up, everything inside cannot be damaged by things outside, and vice versa. Really like this shield. For one, not a lot of creative magic shields out there. But for two, this really makes the sword and board, or one-handed weapon and shield fighting style, really shine. Sword and boards often get overshadowed by the two-handed weapons like greatswords, halberds, and bows. D&D 2024 does seem to make inroads to correct this. Number 2, Energy Bow. Speaking of bows, we have this little gem. Though I would certainly say that ranged combat, in 5th edition at least, was pretty darn strong and didn't need much help. There still wasn't a plethora of cool magic bows in the DMG, so it's nice to see a new one pop up. This very rare long or short bow requires attunement. This is a +1 bow that does force damage instead of piercing, which is great for bypassing resistances, or at least we assume. We won't know that for sure until we see the new Monsters Manual. This weapon also produces its own ammo, which is rather convenient. Even more interesting, arrows produced by this weapon radiate bright light in your 20-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. The ammo disappears after they hit or miss, but it could almost flare-like ability to illuminate the sky or down a hallway. This weapon comes with 3 other features. The Arrow of Restraint allows, after we've hit with the weapon, to restrain the target instead of doing damage. They make a DC 15 strength save or become restrained for a minute. If they fail that save, with an action, they can make a DC 20 athletics check to break out. That's crazy. There's no limit to how often you can use this. And if they are caught up in the arrow, they have to use their entire action to get out. And that still might fail. Restrained, remember, reduces speed to 0, gives disadvantage to dex saving throws, and attacks against you have advantage and your attacks have disadvantage. The Arrow of Transport lets you fire an arrow with a magic action to a target within 60 feet. The target can be a willing medium-sized or smaller creature, or an unintended object that fits within a 5-foot square space, and then teleport it within 10 feet of us. I could really see a rogue with an energy bow using this to steal things, or anyone using it to get friends out of trouble. And then we have the Energy Ladder, which allows for you to use a magic action to fire a bunch of arrows at a wall within 60 feet, which then creates a glowing rungs stuck to the wall that can be climbed for 1 minute. Basically a magic version of this. So a uniquely versatile weapon with lethal and non-lethal features, exploration abilities, as well as support abilities. I think it well worth the very magic item price and attunement slot. Number 1, Cube of Summoning. This rare, tiny cube is pretty simple. You can only use it once per day, and thankfully it doesn't require attunement. Use a magic action to summon a little, or maybe not so little, friend to fight by your side. You are essentially casting one of the summon spells: Aberration, Beast, Construct, Dragon, Element, or Fey. The spell is cast at level 5, and you roll a d6 to see which type of summon spell is being used. For instance, a low roll would be a 2, and you would get the Beast variant, but a high roll would be a Dragon. But even the low roll is still going to be good because they're all cast at 5th level, and the level of the spell affects most things for the summons, such as number of attacks, hit points, damage, and so forth. Any summoning spell creates a strong companion to have to fight by your side. It lasts for an hour, pretty long duration for this type of spell. This means it has more use than just an emergency spell to pop out at the beginning of combat. You can use it for scouting, spying, even hauling things short distances. But the real power of this magic item is that it bypasses two of the downsides of the summon spells. The first is that each individual summon spell has an expensive and specific material component that, though not consumed by the spell, costs 100 gold per level of the base spell. For example, the beast requires a tuft of fur inside of a gilded acorn worth 200 gold. The Cube of Summoning doesn't require any of that. Admittedly, as a rare magic item, it has its own considerable cost. But if you have it, you don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Then there's the final downside of the summon spells. They require concentration. Concentration, for spellcasters at least, is a precious commodity, with most of the best spells with durations in D&D requiring it. But the Cube of Summoning does not. So you get a pretty tough aberration dragon beast or whatever for an hour following you around to fight for you. And you can still concentrate on other magic or abilities should you have them. But even better, this creature is going to be pretty hard to get rid of, because one of the best ways to rid yourself of one of these summoned creatures is to break the concentration of the caster, which incidentally would make said casters pretty big targets. But that won't work with the Cube of Summoning. You would have to destroy the summon or perhaps dispel it, which is definitely the long way around to do things. This is just one of those items that anyone would want to have and everyone can make use of. The worst thing that comes out of it is having the players at the table fight over who should get it. So there are what I think are the top 5 new magic items in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. Do you have any favorites, or do you like any of the changes to the old magic items? Tell us in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and smash that like button. Be sure to check out our other videos around here. And I'll see you next time on Roleplay Culture.